Discover immune system, invaders, defenders, and you. The human immune system is the most complex biological system after the human brain, and yet most of us never learn how it works or what it consists of. The immune system is made up of hundreds of tiny and too large organs, with its own transport network spread throughout the body. Every day, it makes hundreds of billions of fresh cells, organized like an army with soldiers, captains, intelligence officers, heavy weapons, and crazy suicide bombers. The first line of defense. When your body is invaded and your first lines of defense are engaged in a fight for life and death, the cells that survive the impact or are hurt or dying scream in panic, releasing an onslaught of chemical alarm signals that awaken your immune system. The first cells to show up are macrophages, large cells that attack and begin killing bacteria without mercy. They stretch out parts like the arms of an octopus and grab the bacteria to swallow them whole and digest them alive. A macrophage can eat 100 bacteria before it's exhausted, but there are too many enemies, so it calls for reinforcements. The neutrophils, suicide warriors. In your blood, hundreds of thousands of neutrophils pick up the signals and move to the battlefield. Neutrophils are intense suicide warriors that only live to kill. They're so enthusiastic about killing that they kill themselves a few days after birth, so they don't have time to accidentally destroy your body from the inside. As soon as neutrophils arrive, they begin vomiting deadly chemicals at bacteria or devour them. They are so careless in their attacks that they cause real damage to your own cells, but collateral damage is not their concern. The complement proteins. Automated liquid weapons. The fluid brings a silent killer into the battle zone. Millions of complement proteins, a sort of automated liquid weapon that stuns and kills bacteria by ripping holes into them. While the battle rages, your blood vessels let fluid stream into the battlefield, like a dam opening up towards a valley. You notice this as inflammation. Your thumb swells up a little and gets red and warm. The dendritic cell, intelligence officer. We're reaching a crossroad now. If things go well, your first line of defense kills the invaders quickly, but sometimes the enemies are too strong and would overwhelm your defenses, eventually meaning certain death for you. This is the hour of the dendritic cell, your immune system's intelligence officer. While your soldiers were bashing in heads, it was collecting samples by ripping bacteria into tiny parts and covering itself in it, like a soldier decorating itself in the guts of a dead enemy. The helper T cell, the weapon against every possible disease. The dendritic cell leaves the battlefield and enters the superhighway of your immune system, connecting all your tissues with your immune headquarters, your lymph nodes. It's looking for a helper T cell, which is a sort of all-purpose commander cell within your immune army. But not any helper T cell. One that happens to have just the right weapon for the bacteria that infected your wound. The second line of defense, the heavy weapons. Your immune system has a perfect weapon against every possible disease in the universe, against the Black Death, the coronavirus, or an infection that will emerge in 100 years on Mars. You have billions of unique helper T cells that each have weapons against every possible enemy. After the right T cell is activated, your second line of defense awakes and rises. Your heavy weapons are incredibly effective, but they're not fast. The B cells, antibody factories. The activated helper T cell begins to clone itself over and over again, until there are thousands of them. They split into two groups. The first group quickly moves to help out your soldiers at the battlefield, while the second group works on activating another line of defense, B cells, your antibody factories. Antibodies are protein superweapons that look like tiny crabs with two pines to grab enemies. Just like the helper T cells, there are B cells in your body that are able to make just the right antibodies for every possible enemy. The battle rages on. As the battle rages on, your soldiers realize they are no longer needed and begin to kill themselves to save resources, but not all of them. A few helper T cells remain and turn into memory cells, guarding the tissue for years, making sure the same bacteria will never again gain a foothold here. Similarly, a few B cells will stay alive and keep producing a low amount of antibodies, making you immune against this bacteria, maybe for the rest of your life.